Welcome back, YouTube. My name is Alex, and today on the Slice of Knife, we're going to take a look at a little something different. As you can see on the screen before you, we are going to take a look at an offering that's uh, geared towards younger kids. Now, what age you think is appropriate for those younger kids is kind of up to you. I can tell you what my experiences are with my children, um, but you got to make your own decision on there. But in any case, the knife in question is made by the company Opinel, which is out of I believe it's Savoie, France, or Savoy. Kind of says on here. Let's see. In the comments below, if you know how to say that, I would say it's Savoie, but maybe it's Savoy. I don't know. I never took French, so I don't know about the pronunciations. But anyways, made in France. It's called the My First Opinel, and it's a number 7. So for those of you who don't know, Opinel does knives, typically with wooden handles like this, and we'll go through all those specs. But they name their knives by the size. So your total length of the open knife. So like this one's a number 7. It's about 7 inches long, total length. And then you have, they have an 8. I think it goes all the way up to like a 10, maybe, maybe even more. And then it goes all the way down to like a 3, maybe 3 to 10, something like that. I don't know exactly, but this knife is interesting for a lot of reasons. But so for me, or actually, you know what? Let's go through the specs, and then we'll talk about when I used it and how I used it. So this is again, Opinel, My First Opinel number 7. Its dimensions are about 6.5 to 7 inches. It's maybe just a smidge under 7 inches, although that might be because of the tip, and we'll show that in a moment. It might be because of that measurement, or the way that the knife is. It has a special kind of lock called a Vibralock. We'll go into that. This one is used, like he's used it. That's actually the back end. The spine is rigid, or not rounded. So you could use it as a striker. So he was actually using it on a flint to start a fire, which worked really well. Actually, it worked really awesome. It was really cool. So he's not a scout, but we're outdoorsy people, or at least try to be as much as possible. And it was something that he had expressed interest in, and I didn't want to give him some big honking super pointy thing. Now this knife isn't super small, but you'll see why it's maybe a little better for a kid. And your mileage may vary on if you're a child or kid that would use this. But in any case, this is an orange. There's a bunch of different colors. Like, I don't know, there's 5 or 6 different colors. This one was orange. It's a varnished beech handle, so it is wood, and it feels good, and it's very light. The whole thing is 2 ounces. We'll pop the blade. So notice the blade. This acts like more of a slip joint. It actually is a slip joint with a special lock. So it is not going to flick open like a lot of the other knives you see on this channel. But good for a kid, because a kid doesn't need that. And what you'll notice right on the opening, right upon opening, is obviously there's no tip. So you can see the edge up. Let me see. You can see the edge up there. I don't know if that helps. You can see that it's a blunted edge. So harder to stab yourself with, or stab somebody else with accidentally. If you're a kid and you're trying to use this, it's much better for that. So that was one of the reasons I got it. It sharpens out. Now let me say this though. While the tip is not sharp, the edge is extremely sharp, razor sharp actually, and can certainly, let's see if I can actually do a little. You can see the hairs that came off my arm. It is shaving sharp right out of the box. I mean, he's used it a little bit, so I mean, it's remained its shaving sharpness. Now, with that being said, it's not the greatest stainless steel. It is stainless, but it's the Sandvik 12C27 12C27, maybe 27V. It's hard. It's actually kind of odd because they don't show a lot about the knife on their site. So to get the specs, I mean, I knew generally what it was when I bought it, but for this video to look it up, I was like, okay, where are all the specs? Granted, this isn't supposed to be a specced out, super serious knife. It's a knife for kids. It's a great first knife for kids. Now, so you got your beech handle, you've got your nail nick, which, I mean, it works very well. I have some concerns about swelling if the handle got very wet, because, I mean, as you can see, it's wood. There's no liner inside. I mean, it is pure wood with this piece here, and we'll show you kind of that. Well, we'll go into that in a minute. So I could see this becoming an issue over time, but the nice thing about this knife also is that they know it's for kids. It's affordable. You can get it for under 20 bucks almost anywhere, including on their site. Amazon, I think it's even a little cheaper. They do have another version of this knife that is a like I don't know if it's G10 or an FRN, but it has like a plasticky scale, maybe a G10 scale that actually has a built-in whistle that's kind of fun, and it's not going to swell or crack from water. So there's that one. It's a little bit more expensive. I think it's maybe like 25, but not an extreme difference. He actually had one of those and he lost it. Um, and so we replaced it with this one. It was orange. He really wanted orange. And so we replaced it with this one. He didn't care that much about the whistle. That's fine. So this one's kind of cooler. He sort of liked that it was wooden, like it made it feel, I don't know, he likes it's old timey to him. He calls it old timey. So he likes that old time wooden feel. So it made it feel cool to him. Now, the kid I'm talking about is my 8-year-old son. So he's 8 and he is as mature as an 8-year-old can be. He has his mature times. He has his immature times. I thought he was okay with a knife, and he has been. He has been very good with it. He has not played with it in a way that's not right. He's not really used it a ton. He's used it for fire starting, like the knife, the blade part. He hasn't really done a ton with it. He's done a little bit of whittling, feather stick type stuff, trying to mess with that a little bit, but he hasn't used it a ton. But he's 8. He in fact cut himself with it. Now it's easy to cut yourself with a knife, as we all know, but it was a small cut. And he was so upset about it. He was like, yeah, I thought you were going to take everything away from me. I didn't punish him at all for that. It was a small cut. We talked about how serious it can be, how serious it is. And we went into the whole thing. And I said, listen, you never have to be, if you were using it properly, accidents happen. If you're running around with it and you get cut, like that's a different story. He was not. He was trying to cut I think he was just actually whittling. I'm not even sure. I cannot remember. I was not right in the line of view when it happened, but saw it a few minutes later. He tried to kind of hide it. It was a very small cut, like just a little cut on his finger. It was bleeding a little bit, but not even that much. And he just kind of was kept that covered, and he kept his fingers over it, and he was just kind of hiding it. Then we found it, and he didn't want to tell me because he was like, "Oh, you're going to take it all away." I did not do that. He knew it was bad. That's all I wanted to know. So for that kid in your life who's, relatively responsible, this could be a good knife. Now, let's go into the lock. We haven't talked about that yet. So it has the nice little Opinel. This is actually etched in there, so it's engraved, I should say, not even etched. It's engraved, so that's kind of nice. It's very nice. I mean, they took a lot of care when they made this knife. It definitely looks premium. There's a version that has the tip on it. My daughter actually has. Maybe we'll do that one on here. It's basically the same knife, but it has a tip on it, and it's pink handled, extremely sharp, just like this one. It just has a sharp tip. So this has what's called the Vibralock. So it's a spinning collar lock. So this is when it's fully open and you can open and close it. Then it has kind of a little notch. You got to be careful. Your thumb does get close to the blade there, but it has sort of a little indent there that you can see. You kind of just get your finger on there, give it a little turn, nice and easy. Now you can see where there we go, get in focus. You can see where the gap that it usually goes through is over here. So this thing is now not a slip joint. It's like a fixed blade. It has a pivot, obviously. It's not as strong as a fixed blade, but it acts as a fixed blade. So I'm going to close on a kid's hand. Granted, when you're doing cutting pressure, I always find this interesting. Like, I'm not a slip joint guy, but when you're cutting downwards, you're pushing back on it. It's not going to close on your hand, which I think sometimes is the fear. Yes, if you improperly use a knife, a lot of accidents can happen, as we just explained with my son getting hurt by his knife. But slip joints have their place. Are they a hard use knife? Like, no. But frankly, the locking mechanism on a slip joint is the back, it's the spine, it's the end of the blade. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know how likely it is that a great locking, a shark lock or whatever, I don't know how much that's saving you from getting cut if you're improperly using a knife. If you're improperly using a knife, it doesn't matter what the lock is. You're going to hurt yourself, or you have a good chance of hurting yourself. If you're properly using a knife, you have a much smaller chance of hurting yourself. You still could. Again, accidents happen, but I don't know. I do like a locked knife. It's nice. It feels secure and all those kind of things, but I just think that there's a little bit of a misconception about what keeps you safe. The lock does not keep you safe. It's how I feel about safeties on a gun. The safety is in my head. It is not on that gun. Yes, there are safeties. Safeties there for a reason. I'm not saying don't use them. I'm saying they're good. But you need to be safe with the way you handle your weapons, knives included, weapons or tools. You need to be safe with those in general. And this goes for all tools, power tools. things that aren't necessarily considered weapons, saws, miter saw, table saw, like all those things are extremely dangerous and can do a ton of damage to somebody if you don't use them properly. So that said, the Vibralock is kind of a nice peace of mind. I know when he's using it, he's not going to accidentally do something strange. Like, and as a kid, like, I don't know, he's going to get ready to cut and he puts pressure on his thumb there before he doesn't have this thing engaged, goes and does cut his finger. I can see how those things can happen with anybody, especially a forgetful kid. So I understand. I like that the lock is here, but frankly, you could use this thing for the types of things that he's using it for. Just be like a Swiss Army knife. I mean, you could use it for whittling. I mean, you're going to be pushing, again, the pressure's going to go back. Oh, by the way, there's no wiggle in the blade. Not that it's a hard washer. I don't actually even know the type of washer that's in there. You can't even really see it. I'm sure it's nothing special, but it's a good blade. So what I would say is, for the kid in your life, I also have one for my 10-year-old. I don't know if I said that before, but for the kid in your life who's mature enough, and again, your mileage may vary on that, I would say for a 10-year-old, for me, like I would consider, and actually my 8-year-old got it for his 8th birthday. So he's just over 7, 8-year-old got it for his 8th birthday. So I would say anywhere from like 8 to 12, this is probably a pretty good knife. I think even at 12, there are some kids who could definitely be trusted with a knife with a point. That's really the only difference. I mean, the fact of the matter is this knife is fine. There's no problem with it whatsoever. It's going to do all the jobs blade-wise, cutting-wise that another knife's going to do. The big difference is the tip. And there's a little bit of I think sometimes some kids, like my son, he was upset. My daughter, who is 12, has one that has a tip. She's like, well, mine's like a baby knife. And I'm like, that baby knife could do some serious damage to anybody if you use it improperly. If it's used to cut something or somebody, it's going to do damage. Yes, it doesn't have a tip, so you can't pierce something, very easily or at all. But we talked about, it's like, what are you trying to poke and pierce? Like, he doesn't have anything. What he wants to use it for is to cut his fishing line when he's fishing, and which you don't need a tip for. And he wants to use it to, shave at sticks and things like that when he's doing outdoor stuff and prepping for fires and making shavings. Like this does all that work. The tip does none of that. The tip is really not a necessary thing for what he does. And he kind of understands he still wants a big kid knife. And someday he'll get one. Right now, this is great for him. It does the job. It's very well made. It's priced appropriately. If he loses one, it's not a huge deal. It's not going to be the end of the world. I'm not buying him even, this is not a high price knife, but to give a kid a $50 knife, like you could be flushing $50 down the toilet 3 times a year and they're losing that knife all the time. Like then it becomes a $150 knife. That's a little tougher. So do I think, let's give it a quick size comparison while we're here. So something that's comparable in size. This is the CJRB Pyrite Light. Get it back there a little bit. It's a little bit bigger than that. The Pyrite Light's a little bit bigger than the Opinel, so the Opinel's a little smaller. And then here is world famous Civivi Yonder. And it's pretty much exactly the same size. So, size of knife. One thing to notice, it doesn't have a pocket clip. And there's not even a lanyard hole. So, this thing really is a sit-in-your-pocket knife, which is probably good. For me, the less kind of conveniences for that knife, the better for a kid, because that's going to force the kid to be more mindful of it. They got to put it in their pocket. They don't just have it hanging around. There's no pocket clip a pocket clip I guess might be good, but I don't know how you would do it on this type of knife with the rounded thing. I guess you could, but I suppose I could put one in there, but the wood, there'd just be a lot to it. I get why they didn't. It would just make the knife cost more for a very little game. I guess for a kid, I wanted to be conscientious. It's good to teach them to put that knife in their pocket, keep it in their pocket. The fact that it's not a flip open means they can't play with it. I mean, I know that we play fidgety knives. Kids don't need to do that, so there's no fidgeting. They can't be sitting there flicking their knife open and hurt themselves. Like, very conscious decision to open this knife, and then very conscious decision to put it in its lock mode. So good for responsibility, and I liked it about it. So I definitely recommend this knife for a first knife for kids. I think it's really good. I think it's it does the job well. Has as safe as a knife can be. It has the safety features with the blunted tip, which truthfully a piercing injury is going to be probably more severe and easier to happen than a slicing injury. Not that a slicing injury can't be severe, but it's a lot easier to accidentally, especially somebody else. I guess what I would say is this: poking is more likely to happen to somebody else if they're putting the pressure on a stick and and it goes forward, and they're sitting in front of their friend, and it pokes into their friend. Like those are things that can happen. Um, so that's where the blunted tip is nice, because that's gonna the tip's super blunt. If it catches a little bit of the edge, they might get a little slice, but it's not going to be a 1 inch penetrating thing. It's going to be a little slice on them. That's going to be bad, and could require stitches and all those things. But again, teach your kids to be safe, and know if your kid is ready for this type of responsibility, because it certainly is a responsibility, and not all kids are ready for it. I'd love to hear your comments below on what you think. What do you think the age appropriate time is for a knife? I've heard people say they give a 6-year-old a knife, and maybe there are some 6-year-olds who do that. And there were some kids who had knives that were 6 that when they were younger. I've heard those stories too. But I'd love to hear your comments below on it. Again, for me, 8 years old, this knife was great. It does the job. It is really much more than a kid's knife. I could do everything almost that I want to do with that knife. If I was camping or whatever, it would not really be much of a hindrance to me in anything that I want to do. So yes, it has the blunted tip. Some kids don't like that. I get it, but it really is a big kid's knife. That's really what it is. So comment below if you like what you heard. Enjoy everybody tuning in. God bless you all. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time on The Slice of Knife.